Hi, Liam O'Gogan here from the Does It Matter Research Project. This episode is in the thread of the case study involving the Central Statistics Office in Ireland and then by extension the Data Protection Office. In this particular episode I want to share and examine quite a lengthy conversation that I had with a chap called Val McBride, who is the Assistant Principal Officer in the Census section of the CSO. Val made a call to me on Monday, April the 18th at 10:40. And just to contextualise this, I had effectively run aground in dealing with the higher executive officer, Marcella Joyce, who, as we will discover, works directly under Val McBride. I had been left no other option other than to make a direct approach to the Director General of the CSO, Pádraig Dalton, who had then palmed me off to a person called Ken Kennedy, who was the Customer Relations Officer. So you'll see on the screen here an email that I had from Ken Kennedy on Friday the 15th of April at 11 minutes past 5 in the afternoon, in which he says that I will be contacted by a manager in the Census Division in order to address the questions referred to in my previous correspondence with the CSO. That previous correspondence had not been answered. So just that was 11 minutes past 5, and then at 20 minutes to 6, so that's somewhat of a half an hour later, I then received a follow-up email from this person in the Census Division. That's Val McBride. And the interesting thing I want you to look at, he talks about his awareness that I've been dealing with a Tony Downs, a Kieran Hart, a Kieran Dooley, etc. And he specifically does not mention Ken Kennedy in this. So when we listen to the conversation, it's something I wish to draw attention to in terms of what I call the openness and transparency with which Val has approached this situation. Anyway, it's quite a long conversation. I might break it up into a couple of parts. I will try and let the conversation flow fairly fluidly. This is an experiment by me, and so far as you can see at the top I have the audio waveform, and in the bottom I'm going to try and curate into it as much as best I can the data that is being discussed as we move along. What I'll do is I'll expand the waveform here so we can actually see it running in real time.
Hello.
Hello, Liam.
Yes.
Hello, Liam. How are you? This is Val McBride in the CSO.
All right, good man. Thanks for getting
How
back.
are you, Liam? I'm sorry I was on another call there when you called.
No problem at all.
But,
That's fine. Okay. All right. You emailed me on Friday evening, I think.
I did.
At 20 to 6. I'd hate to think the post-Haddington Road reality has people working late on Friday nights.
To be honest with you, since the census started, we've been sort of late evenings most evenings now, you know.
Okay.
And now that we're getting so close to Census Day, I suppose it's just a busy time, you know.
Sure, yeah. Okay, well, you invited me to ring you to discuss what you'd written to me.
Glad to get a chance to talk to you,
okay.
yeah.
All right, okay. So, what I just suggested I do, I just wanted to have on screen here the email you wrote me and the original. You specifically set out to answer a series of questions, so I decided it better for my own sense to have at least both of these in front of me, so I know what we were talking about the same. I'm very interested in that we should work off the same data set in any situation I'm in with anybody.
Yes.
And the way of it, just to set it out for you, I mean, if I have a disagreement with someone, I want it to be about the issues we're talking about.
Yeah.
Very focused on this from my perspective, okay?
Yeah.
The first thing, I mean, obviously you've written this, just to clarify, what stimulated your writing to me on Friday, specifically?
Well, I suppose what's the main reason was because Marcella was out, and I discovered that you had an email in that I hadn't seen, and I felt that I should respond to the email that you had sent in. Marcella hadn't responded to that as far as I could remember, as far as I could see.
Right.
So I felt because she is not here that somebody should, and that I would.
Okay, so that was the sole stimulus for you to contact me on Friday, was it?
To answer, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, because you had written that you had been where my contact with Tony Downs, Kieran Hart, Kieran Dooley.
That's right, yeah, I saw that.
And were you conscious of my contact with a guy called Ken? I'm not sure what Ken's exact name is.
Ken Kennedy?
Yes.
Yes, I was.
All right, because I got an email from him in the same time frame telling me that I would be hearing from a manager, which, just to clarify, therefore I presumed that the stimulus for you sending me this email was contact from him. But I think what you specified that is not the case.
Well, I had intended sending in the email anyway, and when Ken, when I talked to Ken, he says, "Yeah, no, I'm writing to Liam. I'm following up on only the email he sent to Marcella." So
okay, I need to start. Yeah, okay. It's just that his name was specifically not mentioned in the correspondence, and he seems to have been a critical stimulus in this correspondence, at least according to him. Yeah. Okay, all right. Just before.
Okay, I wanted to establish that because I do not apologise for the fact that I am particularly suspicious of everybody I've been dealing with in the Central Statistics Office, save for, I have to say specifically, Kieran Hart, the FOI officer. Outside of that, I have no reason to trust any of the people I've been dealing with. And I just showed that because since then, since recording that conversation, I recently had a conversation with Ken Kennedy on at 16:15 on the 10th of May. That's a number of days ago. This is the 17th of May when I'm recording this, in which Ken Kennedy assured me that he had actually spoken to Val McBride just prior to my being sent this email. So again, I do not know how Val could have avoided putting that information in here, but again, it affects my disposition towards what I'm being told.
Yeah. Okay, all right, just before, the second thing is, obviously you've written a thing, it was late on a Friday evening, and I presume, or could I just reflect it, that you, upon reflection, sort of would stand over what you've written to me, is that right? I mean, that is your position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then...
So just in relation that the specifics of this go centrally to the whole, my dealing with the CSO, I'll just go down into this email, and this email is all contained in a complete compiled document which is on issue.com, which can be seen in, I'll put it in the description below this. But he said, notwithstanding the time it has taken us to get to this point, I must stress that from my point of view I am satisfied that the enumerator competition was conducted to the highest possible standards and any doubts cast on its integrity are unfounded. And essentially this is a behavioural fractal right through the organisation. We are perfect, we do nothing wrong, no one can question us. In fact, we don't even question ourselves. So a central element of this dialogue is going to be to interrogate and expose the I suppose the veracity or otherwise of that. So let me go back to where we were.
Right. All right, and then the point that I'm looking at the latter part of your letter.
Sorry, just to explain that he wrote to me on the Friday and I spoke to him on the Monday, and therefore when I was asking him there about, he'd had a weekend to reflect on whether he did support this view, and he's quite sure that yeah, I've done that, I've got a mature reflection on that, I've had an integrated period of time, and I still support my statement that we're 100% on message.
And I'm just commenting from it. It says, you're saying, notwithstanding the time it has taken us to get to this point, I must stress that from my point of view, I am satisfied that the enumerator competition was conducted to the highest possible standard, and any doubts cast on its integrity are unfounded. Is that still your position?
I suppose it is. I say, excuse me, notwithstanding that there was delays replying to you. Yeah, I as the AP in the recruitment section here, I feel that the whole competition we've done our best. I think what I was trying to say to you there was that there was certainly no attempt to do anything untoward. I mean, it was we were doing our best to keep everything absolutely right.
Okay, now I presume, or I think it's reasonable to say that you should presume that I'm obviously challenging that perspective. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have a view and I have a view. The stated view by you, and I just want to clarify which part of the process you're telling me is the highest standard. Was it the interview process and the job giving out of the jobs, or is the whole process that I've explained until now?
I feel the whole process now.
Okay, I accept that then. So what again? And if
Okay, so this is important because what I wanted to get clarity here, there's two processes. There's the initial interview process, the evaluation of that, and excuse me, the subsequent engagement and process that I've had with the CSO, and Val has specifically stated that he is throwing an umbrella over all aspects of the whole process, and he's claiming that this is to the highest possible standard. Now again, I will come back, the highest possible standard in any measurement is 100%, unless you put the highest possible standard redefined as 20% or something. So that's really essentially what I'm setting out to do over this period, is basically expose the fact this simply is this statement is completely unsupportable and irrational.
I won't apologise for appearing to be pedantic, because
I'll be
forensic. Okay, that's good. So I think what you've just told me is that the whole process, in your view, is of the highest possible standards, and therefore I'll interrogate that statement by you in that regard. That's all I'm asking. Okay, is that reasonable?
Yes, indeed. Okay. Yeah, no problem.
So, just before we go anywhere, the other thing is in point one, or when you responded to point one, there was a second paragraph there, and the last line of it says, however, if you wish, I can provide you with information in relation to the number of applications received for your region.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, the number of candidates interviewed, the numbers who were successful at interview, and the number of vacancies filled. Now, obviously, you have offered to provide me that.
I'm happy to do that, yeah.
And now, do you have that at hand, or are you happy to agree to email me that after this conversation, or is there a time frame involved?
I'm happy to email you. I won't do it after this conversation because I've other things to do, but I'll do it for you, and I'll do my best to have it to you for today.
Okay, that's fine. Okay,
absolutely, yeah.
All right. And the rationale for that, from my point of view, I mean, I made contact initially, having done an interview, simply with the only information I'd got was, look, sorry you didn't get the job, and I was genuinely surprised, and with an open mind, I said, well, I'll interrogate that decision. I'll ask for feedback, I'll review the feedback, and then I'll evaluate whether it's in my interest or otherwise, or in the interest of, in fact, public standards, that I would challenge that. So that's where I started from, no more, no less. So all the time I'm working on a smaller data set in relation to trying to evaluate all of this than all of you people are. Do you accept that?
Yes.
Yeah, you have more information than I have.
Yes.
So when you make the statement from your perspective that this product process has been held to the highest standard, you're actually capable of making that evaluation from a much higher level of material than I have.
I suppose that's a fair comment, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in that thing, you also stated that there was, in that point number one, you said that regarding the decision of the detailed scoring matrix, the matrix issued to me by Marcel on the 5th of April 1570 is as much as we can release you. You then claimed any further details could lead to an identification of other individuals.
Yes. Okay.
So that's based on essentially a spreadsheet matrix that you have at your disposal, two iterations of which were released to me, partially redacted.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the second iteration released to me a set of marks, somewhat in the center of the document, but there were columns on the right-hand side which were still redacted.
Yes.
And I believe I have challenged why I shouldn't be granted those.
Yes.
Now, I need you to clearly state that those columns on the right-hand side of the marks contain information which would identify individuals. Now, again, see, you have that there, I don't. I mean, to be fair to me, I'm working in the dark here. Yeah. And, but, you've made the statement, so it's reasonable that you should be able to support it.
Oh, I'm able to support it, yes, definitely, yes. Yeah, no, I can. Just 1 second now.
I'm not sure what they were called, something, those columns.
1 second now, then.
Okay.
Now, I'd just like you to listen carefully to that audio, because it would appear to me that what Val is doing is papering through a printout of this document. So I think this is important. I'd ask you to pay attention to this particular detail. And we'll discuss this. What you see in the lower page here is a PDF document, which is a compilation of all the correspondence that I've had, and you'll hear Val later on say that he's happier to work off this document because it's obvious, it pulls all the data together. In this version here, you can see where I'm now speaking on the 17th of May, but since the 10th of May I have redacted, as you will see, elements of this document here where you can't actually see. Now you might wonder why you can see those elements there. Those elements, you'll see those there, see the EN U20399. This does not identify an individual insofar as you or I or anybody else could do it. We're now going to move on to these. This is a sector that I had not been given access to. See this information here? I was not given access to this information according to them. You're now going to hear Val argue as to why the data contained in these blackened out sections would and could possibly identify individuals. And just in advance of that, because I don't know whether I can stay with this on the timeline, I'm going to zoom into this. I specifically didn't redact that, right? So I just want you to notice this, the data that's in here. There's Thursdays, Fridays, ###, and there's somebody who's interviewed. If I just go to the bottom of the section, or it actually doesn't, sorry, it probably does include the people here. Yeah, interview is cancelled. Now I want to tell you folks, there is nothing in this information except days, right? Now I'm being told here, and I just want you to listen to this, because I believe this is a singular disingenuous untruth. I'm making that statement on my reputation and everything that makes sense to me in the world. And it, to me, is again that behavioural fractal of obfuscation that exists. So I want you to listen. But important in the background, I believe that the person dealing with me, Val McBride, is working off a paper document. And of course, if you'd printed this out, you won't, by definition, see the way in which this document has not been properly redacted or properly masked. So just bear with me on that. So let's go back to Val.
Where I probably get it best from was from your own document, where you had.
Which is this the master document that I've put together?
Yeah.
I hope that at some level there's some recognition that just what you said is pretty relevant in this forensic examination. That, I mean, I would never find this data unless I put a huge amount of time into collating it in this format. But I'm very happy. We need to be working off the same data set. There's no confusion.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm not sure what page that is. You can probably...
yeah.
I should be able to see down the side here. Yeah, I think it's page 38 on that document.
So it still seems to me he's papering through printouts here as against working off a screen. I'm shocked.
No, it's page 38 in the PDF.
Yes, yeah, 1 second now.
Okay.
Yeah, now what I would have taken out from that would be the interview day and the interview date and the interview and there was the board and the board venue, but I think you had some of that already, was it? The interview day and date, I think, were the time and date were probably the two most important things were taken out there. I could double check that though.
There's something called an EA code. There's an interview day, interview date. There's an interview status. They're the three or the four elements columns which I see as having. I cannot see from the titles of those columns how there would be any personally identifiable information or data. So, you know,
yeah.
you have said that there would be.
I just feel that there is. I mean, and if someone is given the time and date,
so there is a time. Okay, so there's a. Well, hold on. Well, just to clarify, there's a time and
day and date. Actually, it's just day and date here. I think it is.
Okay, so there's no time involved. Okay.
No.
Okay, and I think you're. Sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You say you feel
that's
that.
Okay.
You feel what?
That with interview day and date, that people would pass each other at the interview, and they they might be able to put things together. I just feel that that information is of no relevance.
Sorry, relevance.
I don't. I think it would be my feeling that. I think it's the feeling here that anything above what you got, then it is that there is a danger of somebody being recognised or that.
Okay, so now I interpret that as you claiming that the reason for holding this back is that an individual could be personally identifiable from the four of those columns. So, for example, if I had the EA code, I would be able to identify a person. That's your argument. I'm just saying. I'm saying that. Yeah,
yeah.
And similarly, from interview status, you would argue that those details would identify an individual.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, interview day and date would also identify the individual.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I would challenge that, but at least I needed to get clarity. That's your argument. Let's hold it. Okay. The second.
Okay. Now, I submit that having listened to that, and here's the evidence down below here. Look at this is the just down here. This is the detail that's in here. I mean, I'm being told what I consider to be a completely baseless argument that this detail here, Thursday, Friday, interviewed, not interviewed, could have identified an individual person. I mean, this is completely and absolutely baseless, but more importantly, to me, it's a complete shining of a light into this negative defensive approach within the CSO, this almost prevention of giving any data to a person. I mean, the whole idea of freedom of information is to release data, and I was the person who introduced the fact that to make the caveat, I should not get any data belonging to any other person. So again, I mean, I know it's a little focused piece of work here, but this is what I call a behavioural fractal. Firstly, it's baseless. I'm showing you the evidence. And this guy is claiming things which other people would believe and must be true because he's the AP of the CSO. This is baseless stuff. There's nothing in this data. You can examine it. Look at it. There's nothing there. Thursday, Friday, people were interviewed. So and he's saying you could identify people. Just to remind you, I attended an interview in a building where there wasn't even a reception. I had to sit there, was left waiting. I never saw anybody before me or after me. And certainly speaking to another person who did an interview on another, I think, in relation to the enumerator job, but probably not in this group of people, had exactly the same experience of not meeting anybody else there. The other thing I want to comment is the way that Val says that this is the way we would see it within the sector. It wasn't just his base, that's the philosophy, the culture, the systemic behavioural culture and disposition within that section. Right, let's continue with Val.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I would challenge that, but at least I needed to get clarity. That's your argument. Let's hold it. Yeah. Okay. The second thing is, that's okay. So if we can I just wanted to get some of those things clear. Maybe I can just go back then to the individual points. Again, just going back, because you had chosen to specifically target that email as against subsequent or other emails in terms of addressing them. So obviously, I think we should progress on that basis.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So. You said the first one was in relation to the question I had raised about whether Marcella had consulted with FOI officials in this regard.
Yeah.
And you said you can confirm that Marcella did not. So, I mean, one of the queries, firstly, is I'm not really sure why I'm talking to you. I mean, to be fair, I was reproached originally by Marcella. I think, in fact, you did speak to me once. I think you may have rung me and left a message, which I thought,
right.
And I thought at that time, this is very proactive and very positive. Somebody's actually paying attention to detail. I mean, that's my feeling of that contact that you made with me, to say that there was a delay in getting information that would get to me. So I cannot understand why I am still not speaking to Marcella. I do seem to have ended up in a situation where Marcella has neither acknowledged nor responded to a number of more recent emails. Now, just for a moment, the most recent one of those was when, having then had to do another element of research to discover something about your complaints process, that under your terms of complaints process, I was entitled to being referred to her manager under your complaints process, and I reflected that in that more recent email to her, and that neither was responded to. So I'm just trying to ask myself, why am I hearing from you now as against Marcella?
Because Marcella's not here. Marcella hasn't been here, as I said in the email, since the 8th of April.
Right, but my emails were sent before the 8th of April. I mean, I can't make a statement. I have to ask, were my emails received in the office at periods when she was still in work?
Well, I don't know what email you're talking about. I mean, she was here until the 8th of April. I mean...
So any emails I would have sent before the 8th of April would have been received by her at work?
Yes.
Okay, and I would...
Okay, I've just stopped that for a moment, just to, again, because I'm trying to manage two different resource environments here. Just going to the email. I sent this email to Marcella Joyce on the 6th of April 1826, and in that, for example, I asked her about her position, her grade, her line manager, etc. So to suggest in any way that if she was at work until the 8th of April that she didn't see this material and had opportunity to respond to it is simply unsustainable. I followed that email up with another email at 13:40 on the 8th of April, and Val has just said that she was at work until the 8th of April, so I presume that includes the 8th of April. And again, quite a detailed email asking her and setting her out questions, etc. So, I mean, to suggest that in some way Magellan just simply wasn't there to get these emails is simply incorrect. And I'm just saying, I know I'm going to go into that in the recording now, but that's the evidence of that.
Yes.
Okay, and I believe that my emails that I'm talking about were received before that date.
Okay.
So, then, therefore, why were they not responded to? That's a question, right? And then...
Okay, well, if you give me the specific emails and dates, I can find out why.
Okay, well, just to say to you, all of the emails, I'm not sure, the title of the document that you've worked off there, that PDF that I put together, can you just give me the document, because it's a work in progress, and it's obviously there's a number of iterations. It should have at the end, it's Master Doc to certain date. It's up at the title at the top of it.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me here. Hold on 1 second.
So while he's looking for this, I just needed to ensure that we were working off the exact same data set, because that PDF document contains the emails of the 6th and the 8th of April that I've just showed you. It contains them. Val McBride had them at his disposal, and he's already said he's working off that document. Now, he may not be reading the document, but that document is available to him, and he's supposed to presumably have reviewed it before he contacted me.
The document I have here is LEMOG Census Enumerator Job Process Master Doc 12th of April 15 at 11:22 update. Okay,
so we've confirmed that we were working off the very same data set at the time that we were speaking on the 18th of April last. And that document contains the reference emails that I've just told him about, that he appears to be not aware of.
Okay. All right, well, that's the second but last update. So that would include any correspondence to with Marcella up until the 12th of the 4th. Okay, so any reference I'm making relates to that information. But so, as an aside, I'm just saying it appears to me that Marcella received information, repeated requests from me, and hasn't responded to them. Now, you're telling me you've responded because Marcella hasn't been at work. That's okay. It's not I'm not trying to pursue any queries into that, except just to put on the record that if there are any issues in relation to personnel, medical problems, or personal difficulties in relation to any of these issues, nothing that I would ever intend to do would ever be focused on trying to harm any other individual on a personal level. Okay,
Oh,
I
God,
want to make that absolutely. I need to be fair. I mean, I am quite happy that the situation might become quite tense and argumentative, but it's not nothing of this is personal from my perspective. And if somebody ends up saying to me, "Look, I've got personal problems in a job," more than anybody else in the world, I would never want to cross that line. Just saying that for the record, okay?
That's fine, Liam.
All right.
Okay, I need to say here, this is the 17th of May 2016, and it's quite early in the morning. I personally have found myself terrorised yesterday as a result of an extremely threatening letter from the Data Protection Office by John Keyes, who's head of investigations. They're threatening me with legal actions and fines of 100,000, etc., simply for trying to be a public interest, to trying to expose in the public interest the abuse of data by the CSO. So I'm very mindful when talking here about the stress being caused by anybody else, because I personally feel extremely threatened and stressed. I feel isolated, I feel vulnerable, I feel I live in a country where, I've just like I'm reading in the news today about Sergeant McCabe, etc., and I just feel for the isolation that person has felt over a number of years trying to stand up against monumental abuse by by those in power, and that's exactly how I feel this morning here. But nothing in my objective at all here is to try and create a personal stress for people. These people I'm dealing with are people who are dealing with me at work. The obfuscation, the negativity, the closure and prevarication of detail is all due to the fact that they simply haven't either done what they say to do, or answered the questions that have been asked, or given me the rights that I'm entitled to as an Irish citizen.
Okay, now the next thing, I think you had said that you could confirm that Marcella did not contact the FOI people. I mean, how can you confirm that? How do you know that?
Because I work with Marcella, and there would have been no need for her to ring FO to get in touch with the FOI section, because she would have had experience of dealing with queries like your own. So I think she might have even said it to me. There's no need for me to ring this. I can do this, and I said, yeah.
Okay, just briefly again, all of these dialogues are cross-correlated to other dialogues. So if you go to the video on my conversation with Marcella Joyce on, I think, March 16th, I think it might have been March 16th, you'll hear her quite specifically talk about FOI. No, sorry, again, my memory might be incorrect, so it might have been the one on the 7th. So both on the 7th of March, both of those are up online there. And again, you can see what happens to my memory. That's why I'm trying to put this stuff on record and make it auditable and traceable. So perhaps now it's the first of those recorded conversation with Marcella Joyce. She tells me that she's not actually as well up on the FOI as maybe she thinks I am, etc. So I'm now being told by Val here that she's quite competent in the FOI, and he goes on to say other stuff, assuring me that they both have had relevant training with the FOI.
She deals with these queries all the time, Liam, so we wouldn't ring the FOI section every time an inquiry comes in.
Okay. Just then a query in relation to it.
Just again, she deals with these queries all the time. It gives the listener the belief that these people are this woman is highly competent in what she's doing, she knows what she's at, etc. And if that be true, then I ask you to look at the data in relation, is this the best they do with all the experience that they've got? Again, if you're not willing to interrogate the stuff or look at the detail, you'd be prepared to buy any of the snake oil from these people.
Can you clarify for me, and that's something at an AP level you can do it, and also to the higher executive officer, if as a formality within the CSO there has been a process of developing staff instructions for clearly specifying arrangements governing bodies of access to broad class of non-contentious information, etc. Have those instructions ever been issued to you? Or, sorry, the reason I'm just reading this from an FOI policy unit, notice number 5 from the FOI Central Policy Unit, in which they claim that the organisations and bodies under the FOI are supposed to have a proactive policy in place in terms of training their staff vis-a-vis FOI issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you had the benefit of that training?
I have.
Okay, and has Marcella?
as far as I know,
That's
I
okay.
can't confirm for them, but yeah.
Right, okay. Well, that's again. That's therefore I presume people are conscious of this. I mean, from my perspective, I need to clarify. When I originally spoke to Marcella, from her speaking to me, and again, I could never understand why she rang me. I simply had written emails. I have at all stages wished my data to be dealt with through electronic media, which is both traceable and auditable. I have no idea why she had to ring me. I mean, my requests, as far as I can concerned, are quite unequivocal and clear. And I must state for the record that I have been evaluated by your organisation as someone who displays average communication skills to the level which does not pass the test of adequacy or competency to carry out an enumerator's job. So you people have decided that. I wish that to be recognised at all levels when I'm dealing with you people. Okay? Okay, that's fair enough. So I wish to state clearly and categorically that Marcella told me specifically that she didn't have much experience of FOI when I spoke to her, and that the reason I specifically requested her to refer to the FOI people so that we wouldn't get obfuscation and delays. Now that's so. I mean, therefore, if she made the choice along with your cognizance that she shouldn't do that, then it must be clear that it was done in spite of my desire or request that be done. Okay?
Okay.
Now, she then said to me that the other thing, just want to clarify, at some email she informed me that you were cognizant of the ongoing issues that were existing for me. Can you confirm that that's true also?
I can.
Okay, that's good. Now, in relation to this, the other thing...
Sorry, the relevance of that is, again, it was important for me. My lived experience with people in authority is that, people, the higher up the ladder they go, the quicker they run away from taking responsibility. So it's really important that you recognise as the viewer that Val McBride has acknowledged that he was cognizant of the interactions that I was having with Marcella Joyce in relation to this, and she at all times therefore has been acting with his approval. So this is not something where we can isolate an individual. I think the more I go through the system, the more I realise that these colleagues are in the same wagons. They're not circling the wagons, they're all in the one wagon.
In relation to this, the other thing is that I was given 2 iterations of the document, the marking scheme.
Yeah.
One was simply my row of results, and the second one was the marks of everybody. And that now, before I was given that, I was sent an email for.
So I just better try and show you both. There are 2 different sets of spreadsheets, or different versions of the spreadsheet. So just by way of explanation, this is what I was sent the first time. I was sent a spreadsheet with detail blacked out. The only detail I was given was my row, my details, my marks. I wasn't given anybody else's marks, so I couldn't contextually correlate my results versus that achieved by anybody else. Whereas in the second iteration, you can see here, I was then provided with the marks of all of the other people. This is a proper scoring matrix. This is what I had asked for in the first instance.
By her saying that she was seeking clearance before she could release that extra information.
Yeah.
Now, I think, and I'm just referring to your letter, and it related to the fact that you were otherwise busy at the time, all understandable, etc. So I'm still wondering, did you give her the clearance to release this secondary information?
I did.
Okay. And why would that information, you feel, not have been given to me originally?
Because it's our understanding, Marcel's understanding was all that you were entitled to at the time was your marks.
Now, over the next period of time, I just want you to listen to how an argument is constructed or just played around with to avoid dealing with the facts. If I've been given a scoring matrix, as I've just shown you there, with all the other people's marks and my marks, so I can contextually evaluate my performance within the context of the others whom I was in competition with, if I'm entitled with that and he has made an executive decision that I am, then why wasn't I given that from the outset? That's really this whole issue is about. Why, as a citizen, when you ask a question, you're not just given the information you're entitled to, because that's what I asked for from the very start. From my first conversation with Marcella Joyce on the 7th of March, I want what I'm entitled to. I don't want any more. I don't want any less. I specifically do not want to be given the details of other people, personal details of other people. So I'm just again looking at this defensive reasoning fractal that simply kicks in. I mean, it's not logical, but the idea of just defending the indefensible seems to be ingrained into the psychology of senior public servants.
For the interview.
At which time? Just
at the first time.
Okay.
And that's what you got, as far as I can recollect.
That's right. But just to be clear, I had specifically in my request in relation to the scoring matrix specified in my conversation with Marcella that the scoring matrix elements I was interested was everything except that which would individually identify a person. I mean, I was the one, your organisation was not the one to introduce that caveat. I personally introduced it from the outset. In fact, I would regard it as a severe breach of data protection, quite apart from anything else, for use to release personal information to maybe other people. Would you agree with that?
I would.
And would you also think that an organisation like the Central Statistics Office, of all the organisations of the countries, people who exist primarily and solely for the pure purpose of professionally sorting data, that for that organisation to do something that would really be beyond the pale?
Yes.
Okay. So recognising that securitization of data was a core value with you people, I specifically said I didn't want that data. So the breach of that would be, I think, I would like to think that somebody be able to put their hands up and say, yeah, that's gone past the point of rescue. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure what you're saying there. That what's gone past that. If me having asked you information, you had given me the person names and PPSN numbers of all those people, that would really be unforgivable. Yeah. Like, would you have a problem as a citizen if you found a CSO doing that? I would.
Okay, and so would I. All right, so therefore I specifically said I didn't want this data, but I wanted everything else. So when you were saying I was given my mark, some assessment must have been made, said this is all he's entitled to. And that's why you're saying I was given the first iteration, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now can you explain to me what process was used to give me the second level?
I suppose it was a call I made on the basis that you were looking for information, and I was doing my best to give you as much information as I could.
Right, but...
Now, just to say that, I mean, again, the unwitting listener or viewer would think that these people are going out of their way trying to help me get information. The date of that call is the 18th of April. My first correspondence with these people, just a simple email saying, just please send me all the information about my interview that I'm entitled to, was on the 24th of February. And every single other intense interaction and correspondence has been like a hen's teeth extraction of a data which I should have been given in the first place. So, I mean, on a personal level, I can see, Val, you're trying to... I actually believe that you believe what you're telling me. I think it's philosophically corrupt what you're telling me, but I believe that you've been so corrupted in your thought process that this seems to me for you. It seems to me that you think this is rational. I'll leave it to the viewer to make up your own mind. This is just a complete data set, guys. You have to decide yourselves.
Right, but just what's different between that and the first call I made for information?
As I say, in normal circumstances, that's what anybody would have been entitled to. But because you were looking for that bit more, and I knew where you were coming from, I made the decision to give you those extra marks in an effort to help you.
But this would not be a norm, so I was treated abnormally, is that right?
Now, again, I'm going to interrogate this idea. Why was I treated differently than other people? I mean, I have been treated differently than other people, and say, well, because I knew where you were coming from, and because you asked for a little bit more, we gave you a little bit more. Nobody should be getting more or less just because they're Oliver in the movie. They should get it because on will the catagum, no on will the cartagum. Do I have the right to something, or do I have your permission?
Well, it was my call, so you can put it wherever you want. It was a call that I made. So,
But I'm not asking. I don't want to put it any way I want. I want you to put it for me. Was it?
It was the call I made.
Okay, so are you saying to me you treated me abnormally?
No, I'm not saying any such thing. I'm saying that was the call I made.
Okay, so are you saying to me that if other people saw the information, they would get different levels of disclosure?
No, I'd make a call at that time too.
So everybody gets assessed individually depending on their request?
Yeah, I think that's fair, yeah.
Therefore they get treated differently?
But I'm not saying they get treated differently, no. I mean, I'd make a call. I couldn't say that they get treated differently, no.
Well, if the outcomes are different for the different people, then
the outcomes might be different. Yeah, but I'm not saying that the outcomes might be different. But I'm not treating that. It's not my intention to treat people differently.
Okay, this is interesting because, I mean, I'm sorry, Val. I hope I presume you're going to listen to this and watch this, Val. But I'm sorry. What you said. I mean, really, I'm asking you to review what you said. You can play this back. It's a reusable learning object. You can just scrub along the timeline and listen to what you said. What you said. I mean, you're telling me that. And so, I suppose the most honest thing you've said, well, it wouldn't be my intention to treat people differently. I don't think that's what you're being asked. If you gave different people different results to the same question, which is give me all the information I'm entitled, then you're treating them differently. My whole argument here is one of my core objectives is to develop a precedent where people are entitled to get what they're entitled to get, no more, no less. And it's not a John Bruton world, if you don't ask the right question, you don't get the right answer. I mean, this is supposed to be the releasing of freedom of information. This is about to be mutual respect for citizens, by public servants, and by citizens for public servants, at the cut down of the huge loss of taxpayers' money due to ineffective waste of resources. This material should have been replied to me within the very shortest time frame on the 24th of February. That's my belief, absolutely. And what we're doing here is spending incredible length of time and energy. Now, the whole system's view is that if I just disappear, they can continue to carry out the institutional abuse of citizens as they have been doing. I'm not prepared to do that. Anyway, back from the rant.
I mean, if you want to twist it around, that's certainly not my intention.
Well,
I thought it was help.
So just listen to that again. If you want to twist it around, so now I'm being accused of twisting something. If you go back and listen, I've asked unequivocal questions. The question hasn't changed. What has changed is the decision to swivel the ball, to spin the ball in a particular way. Sorry, Val, I was not trying to spin anything you're trying to say. I'm trying to actually interpret what you're trying to say.
Well,
I thought it was helping you, and that's why I made that call.
No,
if I was wrong, I put my hand up. If I was wrong to do it, I would apologise. But there was certainly that was the motive behind it.
Okay. Now, firstly, I never suggested you were twisting, I'm not trying to twist that, and I never suggested you should apologise or put your hand up. All I'm saying is that from the outset with Marcella, again, I made it clear to her during that call that I was very focused on the process. I was very focused on the fact that the process should be the same for everybody in the country. I happen to believe, Val, that whether one is seeking the results of an interview or is seeking the results of a grant application that you put in, that I believe that because there's public monies involved, I believe this is completely different than in the private sector. I believe that openness and transparency is the prime issue. I believe all this information should be in the public. And I also accept that people on an FOI side may have a different view. But I'm just saying that's where I come from, and I specifically said I did not.
I absolutely appreciate that.
Okay. I mean, in fact, could I suggest that my efforts, I believe, are in every member of the public's interest, including yours. Whether you attended an interview or otherwise, I believe you're entitled to certain information, and I intend to examine the boundaries to find out what's reasonable and what's not. I made it clear that I did not want it to be treated differently than anybody else, and I also making it clear that that which has been given to me becomes the new precedence that's going to be set for other people. If other people are now treated in the future worse than I'm being treated, I feel that's a negative step for a civilization. That's my perspective. So if you decide something, then you should decide it and stand over and say, I support this for that particular reason. Now, I mean, for me, my rationale was, I was given a set of marks. And anybody working within a statistics environment will understand that given a set of values with no contextual basis to calibrate them against is a meaningless figure. It's like relative addressing in computational terms. It means absolutely nothing. Okay. Now, I'm not sure whether that helped inform you or otherwise. I would say to you that your own FOI officer, Kieran Hart, would have absolutely disagrees with your decision and says that he would not have released that. Again, I disagree with him, and I would I'm going to try and prosecute that evaluation so that it becomes a public standard. I think what he's saying doesn't make sense at all. Now, can I just move on to the second one? Sorry, I just want to stick to the various points. So we're finished with point number one. Point number two, confirm.
Okay, I'm going to break up the conversation there because quite a long conversation. We'll just end this as a first part of the recording. The second part I go on to interrogate a number of other issues. So I hope you'll join me again, maybe take a break, come back and join me again on this episode from the research program Does It Matter? Thank you very much.